Hey, what's up everyone? The Chick series, I hope y'all liked it. It was pretty fun to make. Like I said, I wasn't planning on making it a series when I first started it, like the first ever episode. But I figured I could walk y'all through it, talk y'all through it. And since I didn't have much video, you know, back then I used to just cut up video of just the fish catches, right? Because I thought that was the important thing. I realized as I've done this longer and longer that the fish catches are they're just there to show you that it works, but it's really not much. That's all they are, fish catches. I do believe they're important. I think they're going to be important for what we're going to talk about a little bit today, like the actual baits and stuff. But really, that's only one little small video. Really, the majority of it is like the figuring it out, the process, things like that, like watching what went on, adjusting, all those things. Those are the most important things. So, but back then I didn't know. I just thought, oh, they want to see fish catches and that's it, and realized, yeah, a lot more to it than that, right? I don't know where all the other footage is. I probably deleted it. Who knows what I did with it? Who knows if I ever even kept it? I think back then I used to just like go home, cut them all up, and then just save that part of it. And I'm like, oh, the rest is just me just goofing around, you know, just cast and not catch anything. Which like I said, there's a lot of important stuff in there. I realize that now. All right, what I wanted to go over, basically a couple baits. So I've got just a couple baits in this video. Basically everything you saw me catch came on basically 3 baits, okay? First, well, I take that back. There was a thunder cricket in there. There was a thunder cricket showing. It was just a white one, probably a ½ ounce. Nothing, you know, just our thunder cricket. And I caught that one big one on it. Like I said, other than that, I really never threw it again. I trusted everything else more than that bite. The reason is everyone throws a thunder cricket or chatterbait or whatever you want. Like, they do that kind of fishing, and so I think as the tournament moves along, I think it gets harder and harder to catch them that way. So I also realized that what I was doing, no one was doing, and so I count on it more, right? It's more reliable to me. So first, Popp Perch, white. What I kind of like about these videos that I did is it shows what I was doing years, I don't know how many years ago that was, 4, 5, I don't even remember. Anyways, I'm still throwing the Popp Perch. I'm still throwing a white one to this day. I throw more of some of the other colors like the warmouth, and we're gonna get into all those videos. I don't know, we're sold out on a lot of that stuff. I think we're not sold out on white ones though. But the Popp Perch, here's all I can say. People that haven't ever used it or haven't bought one are like, hey, it's just a frog. It's not, it's just a little bit different. We made it different for a reason. It walks really, really phenomenal. It can be subtle, it can be loud. I use it all the time. I think if you've seen the hundreds of videos I've done on them, it catches them. It catches them everywhere I've gone. It always has. We spend a lot of time on this thing. What I will say is we've made one altercation to it, one over the years. We didn't really tell anyone we did it. And what that is some of the very first ones we ever had, we put the hole behind the eye and it worked. And then as anything we see, like in the process of making them at the factory and stuff, that hole starts to get different. And when they started making them different, it started collecting water in there. So now our hole is in the back. Now, here's the reason. Right, this is what this video is about, like explaining why I use the baits I do. It was probably the best altercation we could have ever done to this thing. And basically what happened was I was kind of out there messing around, had them, I was like, hey, I don't like that they get water in them at all, like that they were too inconsistent. And so we put this hole in it, and I was like, at first I was going, okay, we're gonna put this hole and it's gonna be in the water, right? What's gonna happen with that? Well, what I figured out was this. That hole is there for a reason. It's for water to come out when you cast. So here's the premise behind that. is you will never, and I can say the word never, you will never see me squeeze water out of this Popp Perch, ever. If the hole's in the back, you will never. And here's why. Your cast, when you sling that thing out there, and that whipping action, and the force, right? Because this flies through the water backwards, okay, right? Because you're tied on here, so when you throw it, it flies through the air backwards this way. But all that centrifugal force pushes the water out of that hole, okay? So your cast, as you're working it in, if it collects water, and I say if, I'm not saying it will, but if it does, one, the longest cast you could ever make, it will not fill this thing up with even a little bit of water. Like, say there is like a drop of water. But even, and I've done this before, even if you take this bait and push it in and like fill it up with water, like put it upside down in the water and try to get it full of water, I can literally pick it up and make a cast and there'll be no water in it by the time it hits the water. So essentially is, if there ever is water in it, you cast it out on every cast. If there's water in it, right? So even on your longest cast, and I've done that to where I've actually trolled line out to make like twice of a long cast, that no one can make this long of a cast and work it all the way to the boat. By the time I get it to the boat, my next cast, all water's gone. So it's consistent. Every time you throw it, every time you buy one, it works the same. All of them work the same. They all float the same. That's what makes them so consistently good. So that's why I throw this all the time. It's one of the coolest things we did. It's all sealed up everywhere else. And so that's what we wanted. We were starting to see inconsistencies. Now, when I say about inconsistencies in other frogs, look, I'm not knocking other frogs. A lot of times when you build these baits, they're built the right way, right? But over time in factories and things like that, things start to change and it's out of your control. And by the time you realize that they're already over here and it's hard to get it back, right? So that is what I was throwing, still throw the white one to this day. The reason I pick white is this. There's like 4 colors you can get away with. I throw, and what I mean by that is like white's my #1 go-to. It just works all across the country. It always has. Everyone gets into like, everyone tries to make this like the green frog and the leopard stuff like back in the day, and I always just used to laugh because I was like, that's not really what we're imitating. We never have been. So I've always thrown white. White is they can see it. It works in clear water, dirty water. It's always worked. It's a shad. It's the color of fit. Like white works with all fish, right? It works in spinner baits. It works with crankbaits. It works with everything. White works. So I threw that. Now there's a shad spawn going on, right? I'm not saying I didn't know it was going on, but if you watch, it's still like later on in like after the spawn or during the spawn and after, I'm throwing white almost all the time. And a lot of that's just because the shad spawn. So like that time of year, I'm throwing white anyways. So it just worked out. But yeah, during shad spawn, there's almost, well, I'll throw the shad spawn color too if it's really clear water. But this wasn't clear water. It was like normal looking water. So white shadow, that's what I go with. 2, saw that 10 to 11 pounder I caught, and some other big ones. Caught them all on the Rage Swimmer. I guess I caught some small ones around too and stuff like that. Been throwing the Rage Swimmer forever. And my like go-to around the country is a 3.75. Now, there's times when I'll throw the 4, there's times when I'll throw the 2.7. I've thrown them all, right? I'm throwing them for Alabama rigging, throwing this way, throwing them on an underspin, throwing them as trailers. Rage Swimmer's been, it was one of my go-tos forever. I always had it tied on. To this day, I still have it tied on. Like it works. I throw it usually on a 3/8 ounce jig head, squadron head. This is, if you look at this is going to say a flats jig heads. It's a squadron head. People are scared that this is, if you notice this says redfish on it. People get scared of like salt water. You want to know that the difference between this is and the regular one? The eyes. Me and Hackney laugh all the time. They were like, yeah, he was like, hey, which one do you throw? I'm like, the Redfish Magic. He's like, yeah, me too. Because it has eyes on it. I think it looks better. He does too. I don't know if I was throwing it with the whitehead, but 99% of the time I throw it with if the water's a little dingier, I throw it with the whitehead. If not, I throw it in our nude color, which is basically gray paint, right? It's just gray lead. So that's what I was throwing. Go Shad. Probably throw it 90% of the time. Go Shad color. This is what I also came in top 5 at, or what top 10? I can't remember what place I was up there at St. Clair. Same thing, 3.75 in the jig head. It's just Cherokee, Champlain. I can go on and on about everywhere. I've got Rayburn, Toledo. I catch them everywhere on it. All right, last but not least, the Ragebug. Well, I was sight fishing and flipping. We had a meeting at ICAST, and we have come up with the fact that we all are in unison in the fact that this is the best soft plastic Strike King's ever made. Props out to Steve Parks. Ragebug. Yeah. I have more Ragebugs than any other soft plastic over there. It's not even close. I throw certain colors. Blue crawl is probably my all-time favorite. It's just a green and blue. It's always has been. To this day, every single sight fish I caught this year was on a Ragebug, blue crawl. Every single one I caught last year. And then all the way leading up into that event and probably the 6 years before that event. For the most part, maybe I caught them on a Strike King tube one time or goofing around, but I'm just telling, I'm going with the Ragebug. Now I might throw the smaller one, and I might throw a bigger one. It's still gonna be a Ragebug. I had it on weights, usually like ½ ounce, something like that. Every once in a while I'll go 5/8. I was probably going 5/8 on these two because I was probably flipping. I might have gone half or 5/8, one of the two, and 25-pound Sunline shooter. I will say what has changed. So I like to tell you all like the things that have changed since then. I was throwing 60-pound plasma, have not changed. And I bring that up for a reason. Is a lot of, I don't know if a lot of channels do this, but everyone's always trying to sell something. Right? I'm not trying to sell y'all anything. I'm trying to show y'all what I use. You can go buy it if you want to. Every year, oh, well now I'm changing to this. Well now this is better, but okay. 5 years later, 6, 7 years later, I'm still throwing this. 6, 7 years later, I'm still throwing this. Still throwing this. Oh, this has to make an appearance. Hike Attack Swim Jig, ½ ounce with the white Ragebug on the back. I'm still, like, I literally had this tied on because I was throwing it yesterday. So I just grabbed the rod, and we're gonna talk about this rod and reel in a second. But I was throwing this yesterday on a lake. And so this was still what I was throwing when I picked up a swim jig and caught 1 or 2 on it. I bring that up for a reason. Those baits, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, I'm still throwing the line. Still throwing the plasma line. Plasma 60-pound braid. Have not changed. Once I switched, I tell y'all, I have not switched. There might be some sponsors on my jersey that have switched. None of that has. None of my baits, none of that stuff has. Still throwing that. 25-pound test line. I would flip with it. I would flip. I would have 2 rods. I would flip with that. I have switched to 30-pound shooter when I sight fish now. I have broken off sight fishing. And the reason I've broken off is because the fish I've had to catch sometimes are in some of the nastiest, craziest looking bushes, reeds, or like over the years I've gotten into some predicaments where braid wasn't an option. I had to use fluorocarbon. And then I switched to 30 and I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't I use 30? It's just as good. It's perfect. I don't, it doesn't take me any longer to catch them. They're not scared of it. So I would say that's the only thing I've changed. I've gone from 30 instead of 25 on my shooter Sunline for sight fishing. Still probably throwing like on this, like 16-pound line. Still throwing kind of the same rod, you know, that 7.4 medium heavy rod. But for the most part, this was the rod that did all the damage in the tournament. Right here. Rod and reel. This reel, I don't know if you can see. I don't know how old it is. 3, 4, 5 years. Super Duty 300. I could get more reels, but this reel's fine. I don't know how old it is. You can look at it. It's beat up. I can't break these reels. I probably have 10 of them. I have 10 of them because of, you can see what I did. I threw a swim jig on it. I threw my Popp Perch on it. I would flip with it. I would sight fish with it. I throw a jig on it. I throw a big worm on it. I can go on and on. Y'all know that I love this. Some of y'all probably aren't used to a big reel. I don't even consider it big. It's just normal to me. But if you notice, like, I'm a power fisherman. I want a power reel. I want a power rod. We'll get into that. I want power line. I'm not saying 25, 20 pound test line is power, but I mean, you saw, I set the hook hard. I don't really lose fish. I don't really lose fish anywhere I go. I think the number one, and I've done tons of videos on this, the number one people lose fish is because they have too light of a rod. Plain and simple. And then they don't pair it with the right reel. And I think if you're using braid and not using this, you're crazy. Okay? I tend to put anything over 25 pound test line. If it's 25 pound test line, it's on this reel as well, like fluorocarbon. So there's absolutely zero reason not to have that. A lot of people fish braid on a swim jig. I can go both ways depending on what I'm throwing it in. If it's more open water, like that, I'm just kind of like, that was more open water swim jigging just down the bank, I'm throwing fluorocarbon. If I'm throwing in really, really thick stuff, I'm throwing braid. If you want to know my trailer, I actually, this is kind of going to sound weird, but during the shad spawn, I actually like a Ragebug trailer over a paddle tail like this. And I know it doesn't make any sense, but I do have a reasoning for it. Most of the time during the shad spawn, I'm keeping my bait up higher because the shad are up higher. That trailer allows me to keep it up higher. I actually like that it's fast. Most of the shad are not big shad. In the springtime, they're not really big ones. They're usually not on gizzard shad or those bigger shad yet. They're on those small little shad that are spawning. I think the small little tails imitates that better than if you put a paddle tail on there and it's just faster and quicker and it looks like shad flickering in the water. So that is why I do that. This is the rod. Y'all know me about this one rod. It's my 7'3" heavy action rod. I do everything with this rod. I have more of these rods than any other rod. It's not even close. I guarantee I got 10 of these things. I am in the works. I'm gonna meet with Strike King next week. I'm going to South Carolina. I was gonna say Columbia, but Columbia, South Carolina. And I'm gonna talk to him again. We're gonna try to make this rod like an exclusive deal. And what I mean by exclusive, it's not gonna be sold anywhere, and we're only gonna make a limited number. I don't know what that number is. It's probably, when I say this, I don't know why I'm saying this, but I'm just telling you. It's probably a different rod than what most people are used to throwing. I think most people are used to throwing a rod that is probably a little bit lighter and a little bit more, got a little bit more bend and all these things. If you can see, my rod bends perfectly fine in there. I'm also catching 4, 5, 6 pounders. That's how it should bend. And I think a lot of times people have a hard time fighting fish. They have to do a whole bunch of stuff. They can't get them out of things. They lose them. They don't penetrate the hook. All these different things. Like if you look at that hook on there, it's not a little bitty thin wire hook. When you throw a haymaker, when you throw all these different hooks and stuff, when you're flipping it, they're bigger hooks. You need a rod to penetrate that bigger, fatter style hook. I've been throwing this rod for probably, I don't know, a long time. They've made it for me for a while. They did it just for me. I don't know if people were ever gonna buy it. I didn't care at that point in time. I just wanted it for me and they were glad to make me some. I don't ever break them. You can always try it out. Will it take some getting used to? Some of y'all will be like, I don't understand what he's talking about. It's normal, it's fine. I get it. But I'm just telling you, I think the majority of people, and I say that because of most of the rods that I see, most of the rods that I see are not like, they're always like a little bit less of a power. and I just never thought that was the right thing. So this rod, if you're losing fish, if your problem's setting the hook, getting fish out of cover, really losing fish. If you're losing fish, what's it gonna hurt to try a different rod one time? I'm telling you, this is probably the rod. It will probably be an exclusive through Tackle Warehouse, which is pretty cool. I don't know how I kind of pulled that one off, but I'll leave links in the description for all this stuff at Tackle Warehouse. So yeah, that was what I was throwing at Chick. Yeah, I haven't been back. Kind of want to go back. Don't know if I'll ever go back, but hopefully I will. Stay tuned for tomorrow, guys. Go look at my video tomorrow. This is what's cool, is that this whole get ready for this whole live scope thing. Get ready for this whole live scope thing. It's about to blow up. I'm just telling you, I've been on the phone. Get ready, it's about to blow up. I said it was coming. It's coming. I'm just telling you, it's coming. The season's finally over. People are gonna start talking. Some things are coming. Now, we'll get into the whole live scope thing. What I will say is this: my next video tomorrow is all about live scope, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh man, yeah." Wait for the comments on there, because they're gonna call it cheating and all that. And I could care less. Or like, hey, you don't know how to. You should learn how to fish the other way. I just did a whole video on freaking smashing them without live scope, right? I know how to catch them without live scope. Know how to catch them with live scope. Doesn't matter to me. I can go either way. So, but it is a pretty cool video. I try to share a lot of things in there. Maybe some of the stuff you know, maybe you don't. Check that out. It'll be tomorrow. And yeah, let me know what you think about that stuff. But get ready. It's about to. Next couple of weeks, yeah, I'm gonna have to do some podcasts. It's about to get fun. All right, see you guys. Thanks for joining in, and I still got some more series coming up. There's a reason one of them has been delayed. It's my LBJ one. I will still get it out. It's not that I'm not gonna. It's just delayed. It's just delayed. But anyways, stay tuned for all that stuff, guys. See y'all.